Well, I know some of you, Matthew Rocchio being one of them, are wah-wah this morning.
Oh.
But we're Sunshine Lollipops because we're Blues
I'm even
fans.
wearing
Sunshine
yellow. Yeah.
Lollipops and rainbows. How about your St. Louis Blues, Brooke?
Yes, we should start with the good this morning because it is Friday. We want some good news. We'll eventually get to those Mizzou Tigers at a certain point, which I am pretty mad about because I made one bracket and I should have trusted my gut on Mizzou. I just should have known, Rocchio. I should have known. I had Mizzou going past Drake. Should have known better.
Look,
They're
Matthew,
like the slowest paced team offensively in all of college basketball.
Yeah, Matthew's going to put himself in the bubble, and we're going to see the sad face, the frowning face.
I was disappointed in Mizzou, and I'm sure that you are too, Rocchio, and Mizzou fans. And you can weigh in on the chat, by the way. Like and subscribe if you're coming into the YouTube channel, by the way. We have a big announcement coming up at 10:20 with a surprise guest. And that will be a contributor on this show.
It's going to be a new Sports Hub STL contributor. Looking forward to that announcement coming up at 20 past the hour, and we want you to stick around because it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, the Blues did win last night in dramatic fashion. We're here for the drama. 4-3 was the final. The Blues up 1-0 after a period, and then a wild third period. Vancouver takes the lead. The Blues come back and take the lead. Vancouver ties it with 3 seconds left, and then the Blues win it in OT on a great goal by Broby. And, Brooke, one of the things, I know this is kind of a weird way to start the show, but forever, it seems like, since the Blues won the Cup, maybe since the pandemic when they were in first place in the West, we've talked about the Blues going to the net. Dylan Holloway goes to the net, scores a goal.
Presence,
Broby goes to the net, scores a goal. It's interesting how that works. When you go to the net, and Brian Sutter used to say, hard work is a skill too, gentlemen. And that's you have to have hard work to go to the net. But it worked for the Blues last night, and it's the reason they won the game.
Well, a lot of people are starting to get those 2019 feels. And if you are starting to feel that, go ahead and put that into the comments. If you feel like this is anywhere close to the 2019 team, you have veteran leadership, we can get to Justin Falk because while it was a great win for the Blues, Justin Falk -3, if you saw, especially towards the end there, it wasn't a great game for him. And I felt so bad. I texted you guys in our group chat. I said, of course, I compliment Justin Falk yesterday, and then he has this performance tonight. But overall, he has had a great performance, just not his game, -3. And it was a great game for the offer sheet boys, as you mentioned with Broberg and Holloway. Doesn't this team, though, feel like a faster version of 2019?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And they probably, because you don't have the Pat Maroons of the world, you don't have the Ryan O'Reilly, you don't have the Alexander Steen, they're not as big and gritty.
No.
But they are faster, and there is more skill. I don't think that the 19 team, they could have won a game like last night, but they would have won it in a different style. The team that won last night, the Blues team, won because of really strong skill.
Yes, they did. And you get to see that with Holloway. That Holloway-Kyrou connection is so great. We were talking about that yesterday. It feels like the Blues have been searching for that perfect complementary pair for Jordan Kyrou, and you found it with Dylan Holloway. And Broberg, you mentioned there, him going to the net, that was huge. Doug Armstrong and the magic that he pulled off with getting those offer sheets and getting those two players, he deserves a lot of credit for that.
There's no doubt. That'll be one of his crowning achievements as he heads down the stretch of his career. I think one of the other things that we have to look at it. There were a lot of people on the socials, and generally, I know you people on the socials are extraordinarily positive, and you look at things through a prism of positivity and sunshine. But for whatever reason last night, there was some negativity surrounding the tying goal with 3 seconds left. I think sometimes, as Matthew would say, sometimes you got to realize, the other kid's on scholarship too. And that was just a great play by Quinn Hughes.
It was. Well, and maybe it was just
the pass was sensational.
I think it was maybe the leading up to when we were talking about Justin Falk. I think that was the part where people were probably most upset is because Justin Falk kind of led to that situation. You don't like to see that happen because you don't want to give Vancouver a point in any way, but the Blues being able to get 2 points is huge.
Yeah, and right now the Blues have 77 points. Vancouver has 76. Calgary has 75. Tomorrow, well, the weekend is a weird schedule. The Blues play the Blackhawks tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon, and then 5 in the afternoon against Nashville on Sunday, and there's supposed to be rain, so Sunday will be a great day to either stay inside and watch the game or go to the game. Meanwhile, tomorrow, Vancouver is at the Rangers at noon St. Louis time. 10 o'clock Vancouver time. Let's hope that they have not adjusted to the new time zone, right? And that's morning.
They should
skates
go
time
out.
for
Yeah,
them.
they should go out and like party
in
the
New
night
York?
before. Yeah, they should. They don't need to focus on, they need to
don't.
find other ways to relax going into that game. You
Yeah.
know?
So the Canucks play the Rangers tomorrow at noon, and then Calgary is at the Islanders tomorrow at 3:00. So Calgary continuing that West Coast or the East Coast swing. And now that the Blues, and I know the other teams have games in hand, but I can tell you this, the other teams are not going to win every game. To me, the Blues do control their own destiny. Now they just have to put their head down and win, especially these winnable games like tomorrow and a Sunday. Blues have been really good. We talked about it on the back end of 3 games in 4 nights. I think this is a great opportunity for the Blues to put some distance between themselves and the teams that are now behind them.
Well, we saw yesterday that the Blues have been the hottest team, especially since coming back from the 4 Nations. The way that they've been able to score in so many different ways has been huge for them. And they just have that fire. When we're talking about always, of course, this is not, it's just what you do, right? You compare to 2019. It wasn't too long ago, obviously winning a Stanley Cup championship with that squad. But what was so great about that team is that they were able to do that. They had such a hot stretch. They were able to create some distance and just felt like nothing could stop them. What I like about this group so far, and this is not a knock on Drew Bannister, but whatever is happening with this group with Jim Montgomery, you can tell the leadership has made a huge difference. We looked at those numbers yesterday, the difference between Jim Montgomery taking over, but this group doesn't have any quit in them. So you had that situation happen last night where you have to go to overtime because of Justin Falk. We talked about that defensive blunder, throwing that puck into the bench. It was completely unnecessary, not taking that away. But instead of just putting their heads down, they continue to find a way to push through. And you've seen that time and time again. That, to me, is the biggest difference I've seen under Jim Montgomery in this group.
The demeanor of this team, especially since the 4 Nations break, is dramatically, radically different. And I have to believe, and I think if we ask Monty and the players about it, that those 3 days that they had the opportunity to practice, although Binnington and Parayko weren't there, but those 3 days where he had an opportunity to kind of infuse them with the way that he wants them to react, not to necessarily play. I think they were already playing, but I think that he was able to get to them mentally during those 3 days. And they have been a lot more resilient, because you're 100% right. There's a lot of times where you allow a goal with 3 seconds left, and then the wind is out of your sails, and all of a sudden you lose in overtime. And on the other end of the spectrum, that can get another team really jazzed up, i.e., the Blues in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals against Boston, right? When Brad Marchand quit playing in the final 7 seconds of the game of the period. I do think that the Blues now are much more resilient than they were under Drew Bannister or in the first month they played under Montgomery.
I've already seen some people rip up cards saying that he got his playoff ticket.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and we also need a new song, a new playoff song for this group. We already had Gloria, that retired with 2019. I wonder if they do have a new song now.
We got to find out.
We do.
If not, we can just make one for them.
Yeah. Also, a little behind the scenes. Well, we can't. They probably won't like if we make one for them. But a little behind the scenes. I don't know if you remember this, but during the 2019 run, Gloria was not the original song that they were going with. It was actually, remember September by Earth, Wind, and Fire? They went with that, and then they kind of had a little bit of a cold streak. And then, of course, we know the story of when they were in Philadelphia, Jane Schwartz, Edmondson, all those guys ran into the Gloria song at a Philadelphia bar, and that's what took it to the next level with that song.
So hopefully they'll come up with a song to make this exciting.
Because you need that, right? You need it. It just adds to the story.
The Blues no longer have the easiest remaining schedule in the league, by the way. Their schedule is the 28th most difficult, or the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th easiest schedule. But now Calgary has the 11th easiest schedule. But the Blues still, when you look at this weekend, and their strength of schedule probably will go up even further after this weekend, after they play Chicago and Nashville. But they still have games against Seattle, Pittsburgh, the Red Wings, and the Utah Hockey Club.
Yes. A question mark until they get it figured out.
And then they have 2 games left against Colorado, 1 against Winnipeg and 1 against the Oilers. And with 12 games left, I really do think the Blues can, out of those 12, I would say that they can come up out of 24 points. They should come up with 16 or 17. And I think that that'll get them into the playoffs.
The thing that you do worry about a little bit is some of these teams have a game on hand against the Blues.
Yeah.
Does it bother you? And of course, we can't go back in time. Great game last night. But do you worry about this win or the point for Vancouver coming back and haunting them possibly?
It's an interesting question, Brooke, because to me, if I'm going to look back, if the Blues miss the playoffs by a point, I'm going to look back at losing to San Jose and Buffalo at home in December.
Yeah,
I think those were
the biggest ones.
Yeah, those were the crunchers, because San Jose is terrible. I don't know why they have the Blues number, but then the Blues should be able to.
Whatever it is, it's not even just this season. It's just for whatever reason, San Jose Sharks just always figure out the Blues. I don't know why that is.
So that would be more bothersome than allowing a tying goal to a team that's even. I mean, you were dead even last night.
Yes.
Right. So you're even teams, and you go to overtime. That seemed more natural than losing to San Jose or the Blackhawks.
Yeah,
or San Jose or Buffalo.
I know. Everybody will always look back. I know you hate to give up a point to Vancouver, but still, to be able to get sole possession right now of that wild card spot is huge for the Blues.
And that's now you just put your head down and keep playing. And this team is playing with a tremendous amount of confidence and physical resilience. I can't imagine what it's like to play a third game in 4 days. Or back-to-backs, right? Back-to-back hockey games is like playing back-to-back football games. So the weekend will be grueling for the Blues, but they've been doing it, so I expect them to do it again.
They have plenty of young guys on there. Now we have to get to Mizzou. Before we get to the special guest, we have to make sure we have to touch on Mizzou, because Mizzou was bounced in the first round last night. I shouldn't be laughing. I should be crying, because as I mentioned, I had them moving further along in my bracket, and now that's completely busted. I've seen that there's barely any brackets that have been able to withstand the first round so far.
Well, the odds against having a perfect bracket, 1 in 18 quintillion. That's like 9 billion billions.
Yeah.
But how many times have you ever, Matthew, you can weigh in here, you're a basketball guy too. I've never seen a team win with 33% shooting from the field. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, usually it's pretty hard to do that.
15 shots. In 40 minutes, they made 15 shots. 15 out of 45.
Rocky, I have a great stat for you, by the way. I'm sure you've seen all these numbers this morning about the
Mizzou
struggles. Okay, so first round struggles for Mizzou. The loss marked the 6th time in the last 7 appearances that Mizzou has lost in the first round, and the second straight tournament game the Tigers lost to a double-digit seed as a single-digit seed. As a number 7 seed in 2023, the Tigers lost to the 15th seeded Princeton in the second round. There's a fun stat for you. So the Mizzou misery continues in the NCAA tournament.
There wasn't a single thing that was fun about that.
A little fun stat for you to take with you for the rest of the day.
That sucked.
I'm starting to understand, because when I moved here, Randy and Rockio, especially meeting some of the Mizzou fans, I was trying to understand, man, they have a lot of like doubt about their team.
It's called angst.
Yeah. And then I see situations like last night where Mizzou gets bounced in the first round against Drake. By the way, the final score 67-57. Mizzou really didn't have control of the game whatsoever. I think it was like in the last 14 minutes where they had a minor 2-point lead. Drake controlled this game, and Drake, also being known as one of the slowest paced teams offensively in all of college basketball, shows you it doesn't mean much as long as you can control the pace of the game.
And it was amazing. Number one, Drake is really good. Drake was probably a little bit underseeded, right?
Yeah.
30-3.
Yeah, I'm going to start a petition that if you win 30 games, you get a single-digit seed.
I think that's fair.
I don't care if you're a 9 seed. In fact, I think that'd be a good way to continue to keep screwing the mid-majors, is give them 9 seeds so that when they do win the 8-9, they always have to go up against a 1 seed. But if you're a 30-win team, I don't care what conference, single-digit seed.
Fair enough. I think that's good. Steve Barnum, what do you think? What do you guys think the turning point for Mizzou was at the end of the year? After the Bama win, we seemed to be deflated. And up until then, they had exhibited great effort defensively. And it seemed like perhaps other teams kind of discovered what the kryptonite for Mizzou was, in terms of the Tigers not having a rim protector. They just didn't have a rugged big man. And it seemed like, to me, that was a really big part of it. But then last night, they just didn't control the tempo. And Mizzou, by all rights, should have been able to control the tempo against Drake. They have better athletes.
And you have Mark Mitchell back.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Drake, they allowed, or maybe we should credit Drake, for whatever reason, Drake controlled the tempo last night.
Here's what I'll give you. Here's a stat that, again, not fun. After the Alabama game, Caleb Grill shot 29% from deep. He shot 46% in the Alabama game and every preceding game before that. That was his percentage.
Mhm.
46% for Caleb Grill, 29%. There it is. That's when you can't turn the tables with a big three, those big shifts, and you can't take advantage of being a better athletic team like you should have been and turning 9 first half turnovers from Drake into any semblance of points. You're not going to win the game. That's the blueprint, and you lit it on fire because you couldn't hit shots.
So we basically just blamed Caleb Grill.
Not really.
We
It's
always
just a
want somebody
factor
to
of it.
blame.
Yeah.
We always do.
A lot of fans want to blame Dennis Gates right now. So I mean,
Yeah, I was about to say that because I saw all the comments on social media last night. Now that I have X back, finally, I could see what people were saying. Dennis Gates was the comment that I was saying over and over and over again. And here's the thing, Dennis Gates deserves a lot of credit. He took Mizzou from bottom of the SEC, and then you had those huge wins against Kansas, against Florida, against Alabama. But it felt like he wasn't able to carry that over into the magic of the NCAA tournament. The players do have to execute at the end of the day, to your point about Caleb Grill. But do you feel like Dennis Gates maybe at times isn't great at adjusting?
I think that would be fair, but I think it's more on the defensive end and what happened game to game down the stretch. Last night, if your team hits 15 out of 45, you can't call a timeout and say, guys, hit more shots. It just doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
But I do think that there were things that didn't happen, and some of it was personnel related down the stretch that didn't get them what they needed defensively. And I think the Gray injury, he just never seemed to be the same after he came back.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. How do you feel about Dennis Gates at this point, Rockio?
I think that, to Randy's point, you can't blame a coach when a team doesn't make shots. But I will say you can't call a timeout and say make better shots or just make more shots. You can call a timeout and say we're going to get a better shot than we just took by running this or doing this. And I think it's just fair to wonder why you let maybe, and you weren't hitting shots, so maybe that's why you let Drake dictate the flow. But if you're going to let them dictate the flow, you got to be able to, like you said, adjust mid-game and get into your half-court offense and just hit a couple shots in your half-court offense. You're not going to win the game by executing in the half-court offense. There's no doubt about that, Randy. But you can get back in the game and stabilize things by being able to pivot to a half-court offense, and they weren't able to do that at any point.
And they were down by 7 at the half, and they never really did. They were down by a bucket, right? With, 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left.
Yep.
But they didn't overcome the deficit. I think another thing is if you call a timeout and say, okay, we're going to start playing their game. I don't think you can tell your players after you've played the entire season the way you played it, you can't go into the NCAA tournament and say, you know what, let's start playing Drake's game and see if we can beat him at it. I just don't think you can do that.
Yeah. Will Sutton says, okay, Gates, not a great X's and O's guy. Get that guy on the staff. Also added, Gates is a great recruiter and chemistry program builder. I'm a big fan of Dennis Gates. I think this is just a learning curve. And then you just hate that it continues to happen. I saw that Smooth Production said Mizzou got Mizzou'd again. I hate that continues with that narrative. It's true, but I still believe in Dennis Gates and what he's able to do with this program. We've seen it. We've seen what he's been able to do with this program.
And if he's that bad, then how bad are the SEC coaches? Right?
Yeah.
Because he beat Alabama, he beat Florida at Florida.
It wasn't a fluke at that point. Kansas at the time, was a good team. They got knocked out. Okay, that's a fun note. That's a really fun note. Kansas getting knocked out.
I called that one.
I had that one in my bracket too. You can't go against Coach Cal in the NCAA tournament, can you?
Well, you can. When's the last time he went to the Final Four? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But against Kansas, no.
That was a good pick.
No.
That was a really good pick.
Hey, we want you to know that we've got cool stuff happening here at Sports Hub STL, including Cards Hub 365. It's powered by Gray Bar, coming up at 3 o'clock today right here on Sports Hub STL. The Cardinals playing split squads today, so a lot to talk about. And you'll have it right here on Sports Hub STL on the YouTube page after the Cardinals face the Astros not the Astros, I think it's the Mets in Miami that they play in Florida. You can also get the show on demand from YouTube following the live broadcast, as well as on Apple, Spotify, or any other major podcast outlet. Cards Hub 365, daily Cardinals content right here on Sports Hub STL, powered by Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. Okay, we've been telling you all week. We've been teased, and we've been teasing you about who.
We've been teased.
Yeah, we have. Our management hasn't told us. They said, okay, on Friday at 10:20, you're going to have somebody show up on your screen, and you're going to be able to find out who your new surprise contributor is at sportshubstl.com. So I think we can put it up on the screen now.
My God, that's Bernie's music.
It sure is. There he is.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
My guy.
Peekaboo, peekaboo.
Bernard J. Miklasz. How you doing? And welcome.
I don't know how I got in here. I thought, maybe I was trying to do a video or something. And I went to the wrong place. So this is an accident. I'm actually not the big surprise. I'm only kidding. It's wonderful to be with you all. I mean, I cannot tell you how thrilled I am. I've been wanting to have a platform where I can work for, someone that has been a dear friend of mine for 30 years, Dave Green, and to join a staff that's got Randy Karraker and Brooke. Sorry, I'm just so excited. I'm stammering. Brooke Grimsley. And all of these shows after games, I've never seen anything like this in this market or any other market, where every local team, when they play, there's a live post-game show, streaming show. And St. Louis has never had a platform like this. And I know that it's going to take some time to build, because this is a baby right now. But this is just an incredible opportunity for me, as I pivot into something where I really wanted to have a place where all my video stuff was there and all of my column writing was there. It's like one-stop shopping for people who are interested in my work. And it makes it easy for me, because I like the identity of working for Sports Hub STL. And if I may just say so, I'm going to get all gushy here, but I mean it. Randy Karraker and I have worked together off and on for many, many years. I would say decades.
More than 40 years, Bernie.
It's unreal, man. And the last time Randy and I were together, we were at the National Football Foundation luncheon, and he was sort of being the host of it, and I was the special guest. And I told the crowd there, and I'm going to repeat what I said. I've been in radio in a long time in St. Louis, and the happiest days of my life in terms of working with someone was all of the time I spent with Randy Karraker. I mean, it has been one of the things that I really savor about my radio career, and to have a chance to be back at the same spot where Randy Karraker works, and hopefully, us doing some things just like this, popping on your show. I just cannot explain how meaningful that is to me. So, Randy, it's great to be with you again. And Brooke, I admire you, and we've just been getting to know each other, and this show is off to a great start. I love it.
Thank you. And the feeling is mutual. And Bernie, I love you. And I know that is reciprocated. And Bernie and I have talked about this before, because when we worked for Dave Green in the past, it was at AM 1380. Now we started
right.
off first. Let's start with this, Bernie, because we talked about 40 years ago. And KMOX was where I got my career started. I was there for 18 years, and they just announced that they're going to FM, because AM radio is virtually dead. What we did at the beginning of our career, we can't do now. But 20 years ago, it was 05, we were together at 1380. And if you ever, as a kid, for Christmas or a birthday, got a walkie-talkie set, you and your buddy would talk on walkie-talkies from one house to the other. That's about the power that 1380 had. And Bernie and I actually got radio ratings with
we did
like that. It was unbelievable.
We did. Randy, this is about the both of us. You have heard this for a lot, and I've heard this a lot. In fact, when I started my YouTube channel, and by the way, we'll talk about this, but my YouTube channel is going to be folded into Sports Hub STL. In other words, so I'm not going to be doing independent YouTube shows anymore. It'll be all part of this operation, and I'm thrilled with that because it'll look better, among other things. But when I started doing my YouTube, Randy, and this is I'm going to tell you something you already know because you hear it too. So many people watching would say to me, it's like, oh, listen, can you get Randy Karraker on? I love when you guys work together. I've gone way back. How about you and Randy doing this? How about you and Randy doing that? Can you get him on? Can he be part of your YouTube channel? And I mean, you have heard that a million times. I've heard that a million times. And so, yeah, here we are, man, back together again.
I love it. And Bernie, it's been so great getting to know you. As you mentioned, we're starting to get to know each other a little bit better. But when I moved here to St. Louis back in 2018, I remember I'm a huge sports radio fan. I remember turning into you and Randy all the time when I loved listening to you, Bernie, and Randy. I've already told you a million times. Love listening to you in the mornings too, because you guys have always done such a fantastic job and you're the voices of St. Louis. And I just am so lucky to be able to learn more and more from you guys. And this is just such a pleasure to have you part of Sports Hub STL. I know that you mentioned that you're going to be bringing in obviously your YouTube channel, but you mentioned writing too. And I think that's something good for people to know who are tuning in right now, that they can also find your writing here, because I love reading what you write all the time.
Yeah, and I've cut back on my writing while I was doing some other things, like getting the YouTube thing off the ground. And I know that none of you there mind me plugging something else. The fact that I do some online stuff for CamWax as far as like videos, and so I have that as a foundation too. But now I have a chance to just put all my YouTube stuff here, write all my columns here, and I think I'll have. During the weekday, I think I'll have a video every day, somewhere between 16, 24 minutes, and then occasionally longer. And then my plan is to write 4 columns a week, but probably 5. And I'm going to bring sort of like the Redbird review format, where after every Cardinals game, I sort of break it down and I go in a little deeper dive with some stuff, So this is really great to be able to, have everything in one place. But what's really exciting about it is just to be I'm not exactly on the ground floor because you all started a little while ago, but just to join something entirely new and different and exciting in terms of St. Louis sports media, to just sort of get into this and become part of this in the early period as it's starting to grow.
Yeah,
Great.
and to complete my thought of earlier about terrestrial radio, and it's clearly where my foundation is. That's what I'll forever be known as a radio guy. But you and I, Bernie and Brooke and Matthew, we all understand the reality of where media and consumption is now. Brooke and Matthew both get most of what they consume off the phone. And even when we hop in our car, we're utilizing the telephone to consume things. So it's cool to be on the ground floor from that perspective, and to be able to have so many people get us at any time. If people want to hear or see Bernie at 2:30 in the morning, if you work a late shift and you want to see that, no problem. Just click on over here to sportshubstl.com and you'll be able to. You can consume it live. And so there are so many great things coming up for us at Sports Hub STL. Bernie, I want to get your take on the Cardinals, because I've spent the spring telling people we have to readjust our thought processes, because the Cardinals have told us they really aren't concerned about winning this year. And that's fair. I like what they're doing this year better than what they did last year. But I want to get your take on the spring and where the Cardinals are headed as we approach opening day.
The thing I've been trying to tell people, and there's been a little pushback because although I've been very critical of a lot of things, in terms of the players themselves and this team, like taking the fact like whoever built the team, even to an extent whoever's managing the team, I'm talking about players and individual performances, because at the end of the day, they have to deliver, right? And it's like I heard you guys talking about Mizzou, and it's not like Dennis Gates, as Randy said, can call a timeout and said, well, we're only shooting 33%, so here's the plan. Make more shots. You don't. What do you do when a team is slumping? And I know that you sort of build a culture and all that stuff, and it's all really important. I think they have a really good batting coach now. But my point being, and I'm rambling as usual, is that if you look at the hitters that they have, okay, we remember the sort of the most recent stuff that happened because that's freshest in our memories. But if you look at Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker, for example, you go back to 2023, which is not exactly like 9 years ago. It's 2 years ago. Both of those guys were very good at a very young age. You look at Alec Burleson last year. I mean, yeah, he ran out of gas in the last 6 weeks because he started swinging at everything again. But he was a really outstanding hitter for 4.5 months. Mason Wynn needs no reintroduction. When Lars Nootbaar plays, you're talking about a guy who combines a high walk rate, high on-base percentage, good power. He can be, he's not yet, he can be an elite hitter. Brendan Donovan, you know what you're going to get, and what you're going to get is good. High on-base percentage, more power, play all these different positions. You look at Wilson Contreras, and you know me, I'm stat boy. Over the last 2 seasons, as a Cardinal, he's the 10th best right-handed hitter in baseball among guys that have had 850 plate appearances. By him going to first, you got Ivan Herrera. Hopefully, if Marmol plays him as much as he should, Ivan Herrera was the second best hitter on the team last year, and he has got enormous potential offensively. My point is, I'm not going to dismiss the idea of some of these hitters rising up and being really good. I mean, I think you throw away what we saw last year with some of them, and you sort of revert back to okay, what are they capable of doing? Have we seen this in the recent past? And we have seen what they're capable of doing in the recent past. Now, the pitching, I think the bullpen's going to have to be, I can't ask them to be as great as they were last year, but they're going to have to be really, really good. And I also think that the 6-man rotation, I go back and forth on, but I think it'll be in their best interest before long to have both McGreevy and Matthews in that rotation. I don't have a particular date in mind, but they're going to have to evolve in that rotation.
I want to go back to Nolan Gorman for 1 second. And I'm not saying that he's going to become Kyle Schwarber, but if you look at Kyle Schwarber's second full season in the majors and look at Nolan Gorman's, they're very similar. Now, Gorman had the big fall off last year, but when we talk about capability, right. I think Schwarber's second year, he had a 29% strikeout rate. Gorman's was 31. Walk rates were pretty close. Home runs actually were pretty close in the second year for both. And the Cubs made the mistake of non-tendering Kyle Schwarber. I'm just concerned, and I know Brooke is too, about the Cardinals giving up on a guy like Gorman too soon. And Bernie, I'm of the opinion, you mentioned we always put Gorman and Walker in a sentence together, and that's because they're the two guys that are capable of being middle of lineup presences, young players in the entire organization. I don't think the Cardinals have any other potential power hitters in the entire organization. I mean, 35 to 40 home run power hitters in the entire organization.
No, they've got to live with them. And I you know me, I have a million stats. I can't remember this one because I wrote it down somewhere, and I'm like the nutty professor. I got 6,000 sheets of paper here. But the Cardinals' record when Nolan Gorman hits a home run in a game. In fact, I did remember this. When he hits a home run in a game, this is how much impact he has in his career. When he homers in a game, they have a 750 winning percentage. I mean, you know, when he hits a home run in a game and doesn't strike out more than one time, the winning percentage is way up there too. So he just has to be more consistent, and we all know that. And I was disappointed the way he got off to such a great start last year. Through June 4th, he was slugging like 550 or something. And then he just fell off the cliff. And we know the reasons why, but I was still stunned by that because 2023 was so good for him. And then he rolled right into 2024 doing even better. And then all of a sudden, it was just like, poof, it imploded on him. And I think Brent Brown, the batting coach, is going to help him. And then one other guy I didn't mention, it's the most obvious guy in terms of seniority and all that. I think there's a chance that Nolan Arenado will bounce back. Bounce back to 2022? No. Those days are gone. But bounce back in terms of being about 15, 16% better than he was last year? Yeah. And I don't think it's crazy to say that. You know why? Because I pay attention to people I respect, like Dan Zaborski at Fangraphs and the people at Baseball Prospectus, and their models project Arenado improving offensively by about 15 to 16% from last year. And the other thing about Arenado, This one jumped out at me, and I was surprised I didn't discover it earlier. Busch Stadium is still a very, very hard place to hit, right? Mm-hmm. He slugged .433 at Busch Stadium last year. That's really good. And so what I've been saying is like, look, I don't know what he's going to do, but I think it's stupid to just rule out a chance of a bounce back, because if you can slug .433 at Busch Stadium in a down year, there's a lot of juice left in your bat. That's what I'm saying. So I find him to be really intriguing as well.
Bernie, for all the people who are joining in right now, he will be a new contributor on Sports Hub STL, and we're very excited about that. Now, this story for spring training, it's like being a dead horse at this point. And I'm sure that you've been asked about it. You've talked about it a million times. Who is going to be the Cardinals center fielder? In your opinion, what do you think is the best guy for that role?
It's got to be Victor Scott. Now, the only caveat I'll put to that is that I'm not sure what Ollie Marmol wants to do, and with input from the front office about, do they want to go with what they think would be their optimal outfield offensively if everybody does what they hope they do, which would be Donovan in left and Nootbaar in center, Walker in right. But Nootbaar would be an average, slightly below average center fielder. But I think Victor Scott would be an above average center fielder because John Jay's helped him immensely. And I think that Victor Scott represents what the Cardinals were hoping this season would be before it sort of got knocked off course because they couldn't trade Arenado, which created, as you know, a kind of a domino effect. And but Victor Scott, if you're going to announce that there's a competition, if you as an organization is going to say, well, we have a competition in center field, how in the world has Victor Scott not won the competition and won it easily? And one of the things I've heard from people, which is fine, is say, well, Bernie, I like him too, but he had a really good spring last year and it really didn't matter. No. I got to say time out on that one. He slugged like 360 in spring training last year and he didn't hit the ball hard. If you look at his numbers in spring training this year, you're seeing a guy doing things he didn't do last spring, which is draw walks, hit for average, hit for power, stealing bases. And he's improved defensively. So if this is about a runway season and giving younger players an opportunity, this dude is 24 years old. He has benefited tremendously with some of the coaching that's been brought in, like the way he hits the ball in terms of how his setup is totally different than last year. So if you're going to have a runway season and you're going to sell to the fans, well, we're going to give young players an opportunity. Doesn't this guy represent exactly what you're espousing there? I mean, seriously, I think it'd be a huge credibility blow if they send him to the minors. The only way I could see it, and I don't even like it, but the only way I could see it is if they're committed to Nootbaar in center field. But the idea of Michael Ciani being the center fielder over Victor Scott it's preposterous. Okay, it really is. You have a lousy offense. You can't afford the luxury of having a defense-only center fielder. You can put him on the bench, and that's why they have late-inning defensive replacements, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you like those long answers, Randy?
I love it because I get so much detail, and I always learn stuff. And I want to have I need to hear this from you because I don't know the answer from a numerical standpoint, and I know you know these numbers. Not that I expect Victor Scott to steal 110 bases, but when Vince Coleman was a rookie, he stole 110. He was thrown out 25. He stole about 81%. What is an acceptable stolen base percentage for a guy like Victor Scott? If you give him a green light, what's an acceptable percentage for him in terms of a success rate?
It used to be, before they changed the rules to make it easier to steal bases. That was only a couple of years, as you guys know. It used to be the rule of thumb, so to speak, is like you've got to have a success rate of at least 75%. If you don't, you're basically giving too many outs away. And we saw that a lot with some Cardinals managers, who were, well, we're going to try to run. We're going to try to run. Yeah, they ran into outs. Okay. You don't, like Earl Weaver, my idol manager, said, see the book there, by the way, see it there on the orange book there. That's new Earl Weaver biography. Earl Weaver, in his classic book about managing, he was way ahead of his time. He said, you get 27 outs per game. They're precious commodities. You can't give them away. And so he hated sacrifice bunts, although he he was a little more positive about him than he let on. But he didn't want to steal unless he was really confident that they'd steal at a high rate, which they did, the Orioles for the most part. So anyway, with the new rules changes, I think it's more like 77, 78%, but I have no doubt that Victor Scott can do that. Because his history tells us. I mean, in 2023, was it in the minors, he stole 92 bases, but his caught stealing rate was very, very low. I mean, they couldn't get this guy out. So he's a natural at this, and his techniques have gotten better with some really good coaching as well.
Bernie, you touched on the 6-man rotation, and I wanted you to expand upon that because it is really interesting. When you were mentioning runway with Victor Scott II, Michael McGreevy is another guy who I think deserves a shot in the starting rotation. It looks like he's been so impressive this spring training that they're going to give him a chance. But as a part of this 6-man rotation, how do you feel about that?
Well, if I had a policy, I'm not opposed to the idea in general. And I know I watched Randy, and Randy doesn't like it. And his reasoning, is not something I would push back on, because you had me laughing, and that's a good thing when I saw you just shoot down the idea of a 6-man rotation. I have mixed feelings on it, but I also don't want to be a hypocrite, because in the past I've thought the Cardinals could have benefited from using it, but this is a different situation. And here's my thing. If you're going to go with a 6-man rotation, Michael McGreevy has got to be a part of it, and he's got to be a starter. I don't want. Listen, this team completely messed up Zach Thompson, because he's a bullpen. No, he's a starter. Oh, he's back in the bullpen. No, he's a starter. Now go to Memphis. Oh, come back. You're a starter. You're a reliever. You're a starter. I mean, my goodness. And they've done the same thing to Matthew Liberatore. I mean, he made 6 starts last year. 5 of those were those bullpen openers. One of those came when he pitched the night before. So Liberatore, I think, if he ever had a full-time opportunity to be a starter, I think he's starting to come into his own, and he's got really good stuff. And with Chaim Bloom coming in, their pitching coordinator, they're going to find ways to give him an off-speed pitch that's better, that he can use against right-handed hitters. But my point is, I don't want to see them do to McGreevy what they've done to Liberatore and Thompson. If that's what a 6-man rotation is, where, okay, well, you're not going to start for a while, go to the bullpen, and then if we need you, we'll start. No, I don't want to see that on a young arm like that, because it's been really disappointing, the examples of Zach Thompson and Matthew Liberatore. And Liberatore's got real talent. He's still really young too. Yeah,
I'm with you. And I would. Here's my thing, Bernie. There has to be a team out there that would take Eric Fetty to be their 3rd or 4th starter at $7.5 million. I'd much rather live without Eric Fetty, take my chances on my starting pitching depth, than because I know this is what they'll do. They'll pitch Gray every 5th day. They'll pitch Miklasz every 5th day. And that'll mean people like McGreevy is set back, and he'll be pitching every 8th or 9th day. And you can't do that to McGreevy and Palante. That's not how you're going to advance those guys, so that when your position players are ready to win, your pitchers are ready to win. They've got to be in sync, I think, with developing their young pitchers and their young hitters.
No doubt about it. See, I want that consistency. Listen, I'm not an old timer in that, like, where you're either a starter or a reliever. I know that there's situations where guys can do that. I just don't think that it should be a young pitcher who has not established himself as a starting pitcher, where you're doing the yo-yo, but, up and down, back and forth, side to side. I mean,
Bernie, McGreevy threw 173 innings last year.
I know, right? Exactly.
Yeah, he's a starter.
And your point about Fetty, I smiled because, I think there'd be a market for him, because the Texas Rangers, who are a smart organization, they just signed Patrick Corbin, who makes Miles Michaelis look like Bob Gibson. Okay. So it's like, I think maybe there's a market for Eric Fetty. And if they don't want to trade him now, which is okay, the season's about to start. I mean, you can't just let him walk away without getting a prospect or two in return. It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah. This is going to be so much fun. I'm so looking forward to it. So glad to be reunited. So we were, Bernie and I did KMOX together. We did 1380 together. We did 101 together. And now here we are on the Sports Hub STL. We are on the interwebs.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I just want to thank everyone there in advance. I'm impressed by Dave Green's operation that he set up, and Joe Roderick and some people that I've known but have never had a chance to work with. And can I just say this too before I go? And I'm not I don't want to take up too much time, but I want to praise this setup. I've been watching all these post-game shows, live post-game shows, like I said, for every sport. No one ever has even remotely come close to this in this market. Live streams after every game. And another thing I love about Dave Green and I love about this site already, or this streaming service already, the YouTube channel, whatever you want to call it. I watch the post-game live streams, and I see a lot of young people doing this, right? Dave Green is given an opportunity to new blood media people that are just starting their careers or trying to build on their early careers. He's giving opportunities to people that want to work hard and they have talent and they just needed a place to take that talent and get their reps. And I think that that's really important because Randy Karraker is a St. Louis legend. I'm an old fart. I'll just say that. And it's really important for someone in the market to take an active interest in giving young media people a chance. And I think that that's another reason why I love what's going on at Sports Hub STL.
Yeah, it's very well said, and it needs to be pointed out more. It's a thrill for me to work with young people, and as you said, what we're doing is unprecedented in having a post game for every show, for every game, and whenever anything breaks. Whenever the Cardinals do make an announcement that they're going to have a six-man rotation, or if there is a trade, we'll be on to react to it immediately, and we'll do it because we can. It's going to be pretty cool.
See, the only other thing I'd add, we're all my praise for the young people. I'm not so sure about this Rockio decision, but no, I'm just kidding. I love the guy. So yeah, I had to get in a shot on somebody, right? Thank you guys. Thank you.
Great
love
weekend,
you both.
Bernie. We'll talk to you.
Thanks,
Take
Bernie.
care. Thank you.
Thanks. That's our great friend Bernie Miklasz, part of the Sports Hub STL team, and he brings so much to the table in terms of his knowledge and his hard work. There isn't a harder worker in media, and I learned so much because what I have always thought for what I do, I think of myself as an audio columnist. I think that's what we do. We give our opinions, and we deliver basically columns on the air. And what Bernie taught me is to build a great foundation. And we aren't hot take people here. We never were, we never will be. But the reason that we aren't is because we build an opinion based upon facts, and then we develop an opinion. It's not like we don't have an opinion, but it's based upon facts and hard work and trying to find out why things are happening.
Exactly. It's great to have Bernie on here. As I mentioned, when I moved here to St. Louis, you and Bernie were the guys that I was listening to the most. So, and I still listen to him now. So that's really great what he was talking about. I'm sure a lot of you, I'm subscribed to his YouTube channel as well. He will be bringing that over to Sports Hub STL. So you will be able to see his videos, just like you've been seeing if you're already subscribed to him, where he will be breaking down everything from Cardinals, Mizzou. He likes to talk about, of course, as we know, just like you, like everything that is St. Louis related sports wise. And he will also have his writings on Sports Hub STL as well. So that's really important why you're subscribed to the newsletter. And you can go to sportshubstl.com for more information on that.
There is. And you can subscribe to the YouTube page if you haven't done so already. You can, as Brooke mentioned, subscribe to the newsletter, which comes to your inbox twice a week. And anytime St. Louis sports news breaks, and now you'll be able to read Bernie's work here at Sports Hub STL, you'll be the first to know about special events and merchandise. You can get exclusive content and prize opportunities. While you're on the site, check out all of the St. Louis sports content, including Bernie with game recaps, programming highlights, sports news and opinion, gambling tips, and more. It's all on the website at sportshubstl.com.
Do you have any great Bernie stories of working together?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there's too many, but maybe one that just like first that comes to mind.
The one thing, and Michelle Smallman always brings this up because she loved it. Bernie and I had a massive argument over Michael Brockers when the Rams drafted him. And I said it was just a horrible pick. And Bernie was behind it. I said, no, you don't take it deep. They had the 6th pick in the draft. And remember, they traded down and Not that I thought that Morris Claiborne was going to be great, but I thought a cornerback would be more valuable. I just don't think you take a nose tackle. When you have the 6th pick in the draft, you just don't take a nose tackle. And he had a nice career, but I don't think he was worthy of utilizing the 6th pick in the draft. And they might have gotten, when they made that trade, they might have gotten Alec Ogletree too. When they traded down from 6 to 12.
To that point, let's not forget that Rams team had one unit that was above average, and it was
the defensive line, and they were all first rounders.
Why the hell are you adding a first-round pick into the one strength the team has?
Yeah.
There's sometimes when your roster is so bereft of talent that you cannot draft best player available, and you just got to make a pick that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
It still pisses me off. Michael Brockers, completely fine player. Yes, they needed a nose tackle. There's no doubt there. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Still angry about it.
But here's the thing, and I have a tremendous amount of respect. I probably have more respect for Bernie Miklasz than any other person that I've worked with on a regular basis in terms of doing shows, and we have had a tremendous amount of fun. But you mentioned that we can go back, like Bernie grew up as a Baltimore Colts fan, and I can talk Baltimore Colts. I grew up as a football Cardinals fan, and he can talk football Cardinals. So we can do old guy sports talk, which is really fun too.
Yes, old guy sports talk. Yeah, going back in time.
So that's part of it too, and I'm just absolutely thrilled that he's here and part of the Sports Hub STL team. It is time now for the Grim Report.
Grim Report. All right. So everybody likes a good Cinderella story. We were talking about this earlier when Mizzou was, when we were discussing Mizzou being bounced in the first round.
VCU is just going to be, it's going to be so much fun to watch VCU traverse this. No?
I think Rockio is still hurt today.
I got crickets. I got crickets.
We need a soundboard.
I'm also
for
annoyed
that.
that VCU didn't win. That one also pissed me off. I'm not like after the game we're going to talk about, which I very much enjoyed and was on my bracket.
Yes.
Everything went to crap after McNeese set NCAA tournament on fire, and I loved it. It's a great moment, but I don't really care now.
So that leads into the Grim Report, which is, do we already have an early Cinderella team? So you just mentioned there, McNeese State. This is a very interesting story here because there's a lot of layers to this. There was an early bracket buster. I have to say, I did not have McNeese State advancing. Did you?
I did not know.
No, I don't think many people did. And they had a huge upset victory. No way that you actually had McNeese State, Rockio. Get in the bubble. You're lying.
They were my 12-5.
No.
Again, my bracket is crap now. I had Kansas beating Arkansas. I had Mizzou beating Drake and beating Texas Tech. I had VCU winning a second-round matchup because I wanted to see an A-10 team do well. My bracket is crap. I'm not bragging about my bracket, but I had McNeese State over Clemson.
Okay, so they had a 69-67 upset victory over Clemson and marking their first ever NCAA tournament win in McNeese program history. Now, why they're an early Cinderella candidate outside of this? You need a great story, right? Their manager, Amir Ara Khan, has become a story in itself. He has 3 NIL deals. Do we have that video explaining who Amir Khan is, the manager of McNeese State?
Going viral for his pre-game hype walkouts with a boombox. Meet Amir Khan, the student manager for the McNeese State men's basketball team.
It's almost go time. Go folks.
Since he's become the face of men's college basketball, he is now nicknamed Aura, and brands are cashing in on the hype. He has signed 3 NIL deals with Buffalo Wild Wings, Tick Picks, and Asamia Cookies, and it makes him the first student manager ever to sign an NIL deal. Shout out to Amir Khan for securing the bag and becoming a March Madness legend.
That is McNeese State's Amir Ara Khan is what they're calling him, the manager, the little guy who is behind the scenes, I guess, for their kind of pump up going into games.
You saw him walking out yesterday. He had a Buffalo Wild Wings blinged out over the shoulder speaker boombox. Also, the cheerleaders were wearing Amir Khan face socks. Also impressive job by the cheerleading squad. That's some incredibly good merch. Then he got interviewed on CBS Sports by Fanta, excuse me. I don't want to say it's Franco. Fanta, who was interviewing Amir in the locker room while the team is around him, hyping him up, throwing up shirts with his name up, throwing up the socks with his face on it. It's the most bizarre, inverted thing I've ever seen in college basketball, and I want every second of it. keep going. Let's
I do
go.
too. It's a great Cinderella story. So you have McNeese State advancing. They were beating Clemson. They beat Clemson 69-67, breaking a lot of brackets, including mine. And then you have that story of Amir Arakan as their manager. NIL deals for your manager. That's a pretty big deal.
That's
I can't believe
awesome.
3.
Also, Will Sutton pointing it out.
Yes.
Sincere Parker, former Billiken, is one of the bench scorers on McNeese. He actually had a pretty impactful part of the second half for them. Got fouled on a I'm blanking on the technical. He had a technical foul against him where he hit the free throws. He had a dunk when they were trying to run the press break late in the game. Yeah, Sincere Parker with a very similar game. I mean, he's pulling up in the mid range. He's dunking crazy. He's gotten better since he left St. Louis.
So the story continues too with this. When you're saying a story made for March, I also don't know if you have seen the reports. Will Wade, McNeese's head coach, apparently is entering the coach transfer portal, and he will be going on to be the head coach at NC State after the season. So there's even some drama going on behind the scenes,
which is great. And it was interesting because he was on Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio the other morning talking about how can I tell a young player not to upgrade to a Power 5 when I can do that? And it hadn't been broken. The story hadn't been broken.
He was already preparing everybody for it.
Yeah. He said, I'm not going to tell these kids to not leave McNeese State and go to a Power 5. He said that would be hypocritical because coaches do it all the time.
Well,
and
at least he said that. Yeah, at least he said that because we've seen where there's plenty of coaches who have moved around to other schools, but then they're mad about the transfer portal. I do think that they would benefit from a transfer portal window where there is at least kind of a closing time with college sports. We've heard, especially in football, it shouldn't be just an all year round situation. But I think for a coach to move on and go to a different school, you can't get mad at any of your players from doing that. You can't get mad if they could decide if they want to go somewhere else.
It happens all the time. And my guess would be now, if the players didn't already know, that they're just like Avila and Swope, I would think that there will be a group of players that follow Will Wade from McNeese to NC State, right?
Yes. So for all the people out there, I know that we have a lot of Mizzou fans on the chat. I saw you guys earlier because you're definitely hurting right now with Mizzou losing in the first round. Who are you rooting for now? Is there a team that you're rooting for now in the NCAA tournament?
Will Sutton's got a good idea. You can follow Sincere Parker with McNeese State. You got the Cinderella factor, or as we talked about it, and I made the mistake, 4-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year Ryan Kalkbrenner went to Trinity up on the north side, and you can root for Creighton, who got a big win over Louisville, but unfortunately, because they got a bad 8-seed draw, they now have to face off against Auburn in the second round.
Auburn's pretty good, and Houston's pretty good too,
yes, they
right?
are too.
We should mention SIUE also losing yesterday.
That was a 16-1. That was we were all hoping against hope, but what a great run by SIUE. And Brian Baroni has his program on the right track. It's pretty cool to see on the ground floor, your first time ever in the tournament. Cool to have those guys get that experience. I think that's really valuable.
I think it is, and also it's huge for your program to be able to have that too. When you're out recruiting, anything like that, just be able to make it to the big dance
and get some money for the Ohio Valley Conference.
Yeah, Baroni is great. It was great having him on. You can go see that interview too from last week. We talked to him, just talking about his family history. He gave a lot of credit, of course, to his dad, but his mom too. I thought that was really sweet to see.
Yeah, he's got a chance to be great, and Illinois plays today, and I think Illinois has a chance to make a little bit of a run here. You know, they have not been healthy for 2 months. This is the first time Brad Underwood has had his entire cachet of players since the middle of January. And I think Illinois can do some damage.
Is there a team that you're rooting for now outside of Mizzou?
I'm rooting for the scoundrel and the old school scoundrel. Now it's just normal, but I'm rooting for the Kelvin Sampson Bruce Pearl matchup in a championship game. You don't like that?
No.
Oh, because Bruce Pearl and Tennessee.
Yes. I was actually watching a video this morning, and that made me hate Bruce Pearl even more because Bruce Pearl was really close with Pat Summitt. If you don't know who Pat Summitt is, then I don't know what to tell you. Pat Summitt, absolute college basketball legend, women's basketball legend, but also, you know, Bruce Pearl, he was at Tennessee at the time, like towards the end there of the Pat Summitt era. and they had such a close relationship. Remember, Bruce Pearl became really popular because he went into the stands and had the painted body. So then I was watching that video where they were counting that and his relationship with Pat Summitt, and she returned the favor where she came and was like a cheerleader for one of his games. It made me hate him even more, Randy, because it's like Pat Summitt is such a legend in college basketball, but also at Tennessee, and you still screwed over Tennessee in the end. I just had to throw that out there.
Okay.
Schoolboy Row with the correct answer for all Mizzou fans, which is I'm rooting for chaos. That's what you do. When your team gets knocked out, you root for chaos.
I just don't want the SEC to be embarrassed. Even though I don't want Auburn to win, I don't want the SEC to be embarrassed because you had 14 teams make the NCAA tournament, and I just don't want them to be embarrassed.
That's fair.
I think
boys
that's
in Columbia
fair.
did not help that argument.
No.
Although Georgia getting shellacked by a football score to start the game against a non-football school. Gonzaga was up 27-3 against Georgia.
I picked Georgia in that game.
I know.
Yeah.
Will Sutton saying not a great start for SEC. No, but we still have a chance. You can erase some of that if you make it to the Final Four, Elite Eight, win it all.
Oh, could be. Anybody rooting, by the way, for former Mizzou Tiger John Tanji in Wisconsin? No. Their leading scorer at Wisconsin.
Rocky.
Use the
He's
transfer
just
portal.
having such a rough day.
We got Caleb Grill. We got him out of the transfer portal, right?
Oh.
Yeah. I don't think of the transfer portal success as the other way. It's kind of like how I don't check Randy Rosarina's stats in October. Just avoid
kind of
it.
hard
It
to
makes
ignore.
you feel better.
Yeah.
Ignorance really is bliss.
You're right.
It really is.
That's what I learn as I get older.
Yeah.
Or not learn.
So, this is a really big, important time of year to know what's going on in the gambling world, because if you're betting on the NCAA tournament, you want to know exactly what to do. And advice is good. Trends are good. And that's why Eric Sontag is good. And Eric is with us now. He's got his show coming up at noon here on Sports Hub STL, and he's with Brooke and Randy right now. Let's see if we can. Oh, there he is. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. 2 best days of the year here, yesterday and today. So looking forward to it.
I was, and I did not. The places where I would have placed bets, I'm glad I didn't place them. But I did go 12-4 in my bracket. But how did you do? This is more important. How did you do with actual real live gambling on day one?
Yeah, I treaded water. I went 4-5 with my spread and my totals play. Last year's tournament was a disaster for me, so 4-5. I'll take that. I like the slate a little bit better today, so hopefully to crawl over 500 for the tournament today. I did see you guys were just talking SEC. SEC teams did go 4-3 straight up yesterday, but just 2-5 against the spread. One of my good buddies is an Indiana grad. He's already pissed off that the Hoosiers didn't get in the tournament. I'm hearing it. Going to be hearing it from him if the SEC continues with this. So, yeah, Brooke, I'm with you. I'm a little nervous about the SEC. I do think it's a little top heavy. We got a lot of good teams and then a few elite teams. I could see those elite teams really making a run. I got Florida, Auburn, and Tennessee in my Final Four. But kind of those mid-level teams, man, they're starting to get knocked off. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few more get knocked off here today.
Yeah, Eric, I'm a little worried because we were already kind of the laughing stock with the way that college football playoffs panned out. And then we just can't be embarrassed when you have 14 teams make it into the NCAA tournament. Just to please at least make it to the Final Four. If you can win it all, that'd be great. But just make it to the Final Four
As
so I
long
can
as
feel
you're
a
not
little
Auburn.
bit. Yeah. I mean, even I would be fine with Auburn. I'll just have to pretend that Bruce Pearl's not there, as long as it protects the SEC from being embarrassed. Is there any prop bets that you're paying attention to for the NCAA tournament this weekend?
I mean, prop bets, I don't really dive in too deep to those just because, frankly, in Missouri, we don't really have availability for that. And there's kind of limited offerings for that.
Still, which is ridiculous.
I know, but the thing that I'm really looking at is a couple trends that I was profitable in these yesterday, going 2-0 in these games. Fade the hell out of the Mountain West Conference. This conference is an absolute disaster in the tournament. So the stat is double-digit seeds from the Mountain West are now 3-33 all-time straight up in the tournament and 6-28-2 against the spread. So the Mountain West is an absolute disaster. San Diego State got beat by 40 to North Carolina in the play-in game the other night. Utah State got trounced by UCLA. So I am definitely my 2 best bets of the day I love Memphis. They're actually the 5 seed, but they're the dog in this game against Colorado State. Memphis is +1. So I'm definitely going to be on Memphis money line. And I love Shaka and Marquette today up against New Mexico. They're a 4.5-point favorite against the Lobos. So definitely going to be big on Memphis and Marquette today. And the other trend, and this is not good for any Illini fans that are watching, these first 4 teams tend to advance. So a first 4 team has advanced to the round of 32 in 12 of the 13 tournaments since this became a thing. We saw it the very first year with VCU going to the Final Four from the play-in game. So I definitely, man, I'd pegged both North Carolina and Xavier to be in my Sweet 16 before the bracket came out. I just think North Carolina, we see this, like the team that everybody's pissed gets in the tournament, goes on a little bit of a run. They look incredible the other night. So I really like them today. They're actually a 1.5-point favorite over the 6 seed Ole Miss. And man, Illinois has just been too inconsistent for me to trust them. I'm kind of a Xavier just honk. I'm a Jesuit educated man. I got 4 years at St. Louis U High, 4 years at St. Louis U. So I'm very partial to the Creightons and the Xaviers and the Marquettes of the world. I like Sean Miller as a coach, even though he's kind of a jerk and a rule breaker. But I really like Xavier getting 3.5 today against the Illini.
Did you have in your bracket, as you look forward, did you have a team that the rest of the world wasn't like? I really liked what Maryland did down the stretch. So I have Maryland going a pretty long way. But then I look at today, and they're a 10.5-point favorite over Grand Canyon, over GCU. I kind of think GCU might cover in that game.
Yeah, I think GCU is a very frisky 13 seed. They won a game in the tournament last year, beating St. Mary's, I believe it was. I think Bryce Drew's still their head coach, obviously tons of tournament pedigree. So I think they are a very, good upset candidate for today. Another one that I'm keeping my eye on, I'm not like betting this on the money line, but I'm going to take them on the spread, is Lipscomb +14.5 against Iowa State. Cyclones are a little bit beat up. That Keyshawn Gilbert, the St. Louis kid, he's out with a groin injury. Lipscomb, they fit the profile for me as a team that can really make some noise today. They're super disciplined. They don't foul. They're top 5 in the country in fewest points allowed from free throws, and they can shoot the rock. They're top 25 team in field goal percentage. And I love this. Like, they shoot over 80% from the free throw line. So like, I love a team like that is, that's really solid. I also saw Kevin Harlan is on the call in that game today. I get to see that like being a super exciting down to the wire. Kevin Harlan's getting all excited. So I'm definitely taking Lipscomb +14.5. I'm not brave enough to take them on the money line, but I think that's the one. That's a team that's kind of been off the radar. I think there's been a lot of trendy upset picks with Drake, which came through, unfortunately. UC San Diego, which did not come through. I think Lipscomb is kind of one of these off the radar teams that can make some noise today.
I like what you said there with Kevin Harlan, that you even pay attention to that, because that's a good call there. Love Kevin Harlan anytime he's on a game. Now, switching gears just a little bit for the Blues, because obviously the Blues are doing incredible right now. Any trends you're following? They're facing the Blackhawks and the Predators this weekend.
Yeah, I was starting to dig into the Blackhawks game. The Hawks are just a mess. Like that's no, surprise, but they are just like leaking goals. The Blues have scored 6 goals against them in both matchups this season. I believe the Hawks are a 3rd worst in the NHL in goals allowed. And the Blues, like in this 15-game stretch, I think they're like, 11-2-2 now over their last 15. This stretch started the last game before the Four Nations face-off. The Blues had that super exciting game with the Hawks. It was a 6-5 win. And that started this trend of the Blues are just scoring goals left and right. Over 4 goals a game, like I said, over the last 15. So it's going to be tough to bet that game because the Blues are such a heavy favorite. They're going to be opening up, above a -200 favorite. I think the play that I'm still kind of, simmering on what I want to do with that game. I kind of like the look of the Blues team total over 3.5 goals. They're scoring, more than 3.5 goals at a very high rate right now. It's cashed in 9 of these 15 games since they've been on this run. So I do not endorse like taking a money line favorite over -200 straight up. You're just going to get yourself in trouble with that because you have to win at a high rate to be profitable with that. So the angle I really like the most with the Blues tomorrow is that team total over 3.5.
Eric, what do you like to bet the most? Obviously, this is a really big, important time of year for the people that bet and the people that take bets. But NFL season, college football season, what is your favorite time of year to be betting?
Well, this is my favorite time of year to be betting for sure. Like this week and last week in particular, the conference tournaments are just like the best. There's just action nonstop. Baseball, I find to be the toughest sport to win at. And because it was just like what I was talking about, you have the Dodgers, playing against the Marlins or something, and the Dodgers are like minus 350 or something like that. And the novice gambler thinks, oh, hey, the Dodgers, they're going to beat the Marlins. But if you're having to lay over minus 300 odds, they have to win 4 times in a row. Like you could win your first 3 bets doing that, but then if they lose, you're down. So that baseball's a really tricky sport to bet. This is kind of like, I'm kind of a nerd with this, but like I love betting soccer just because the games are so low scoring. You're getting usually an average about 3 goals per game.
Mhm.
The whole game, you're getting a sweat usually because usually if you're betting a total, you're usually sweating out most of the game. The games are usually tied or within a goal or two. So City, I can't figure them out right now. That's what I'm trying to steer clear of them. I think I've bet their games 4 times and I have 3 losses and a push. So they're at Philadelphia tomorrow, our old friends, Bradley Carnell and Indiana Vasilev. So I think that'll be an interesting matchup. City, they're trying to be the first team in MLS history to go the first 5 games of the season without allowing a goal. Philadelphia is the highest scoring team in the MLS through the first 4 games. So that streak is definitely going to be put to the test tomorrow. But like City, I mean, how do you fade them right now? This has been incredible.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, I had a buddy yesterday that went over to Illinois to try to put some money down on Houston against SIUE. I have to remind everybody that if they want to bet on the Illini today, they can't do it in Illinois.
That is correct. Yeah, that is one of the rules in Illinois that you cannot bet on college teams from the state of Illinois. So I think the Illini are the only team left in the tournament that are from the state of Illinois. But yeah, that's just one of those things. I haven't heard yet what Missouri is doing with that. I hope that's not the case because obviously we want to be betting on these Tigers and the Billikens. So yeah, I guess we'll have to see how that works out. But yeah, that is a good point, Randy. I've had a lot of questions of that from people like, where's the Illini game? I don't see it listed. And that's why, because they have that rule in Illinois.
We have Domesticated Gamblers coming up at noon, and I know you guys will have a lot more information here on Sports Hub STL. We're looking forward to it, Eric. Thanks.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks, Brooke. Have a good day.
You too. Have a great weekend.
You
Eric
missed
Sontag.
it. Yeah, you missed it last weekend. I accidentally called them sophisticated gamblers.
They're that too.
So we're gonna have I think potentially an episode where they'll be very sophisticated when they're doing
really
their
need
bets.
them like wine glasses, full
Oh, that'd be fun.
It's like, do you think that 6.5 is a good line? Indubitably.
Yes, I love that. Now it's time for overarching, and we do have some Cardinals news. Usually we start out with Cardinals news, but this is very minor things because we've seen the battle of the Jose's so far in spring training, and it looks like, according to Katie Wu of The Athletic, we have a winner of the Jose's, and it's Jose Fermin has reportedly made the opening day roster. So that will be your Jose who is making the bench. It will be Jose Fermin. We know that it was between Jose Fermin and Jose Barrero. Does it really matter, honestly, with the bench and which one was going to make it?
I wonder if because we always hear about Barrero's skill set.
Yeah.
I wonder if they think that they can actually develop that at Memphis rather than having him sit on the bench here.
That makes sense because I was wondering, they both have been pretty good during spring training. So I was wondering what exactly put Fermin, he did have a good day the other day, Fermin over the top, but that makes a lot of sense of maybe they think they can develop that a little bit more. How old is Jose Barrero?
He's 26.
Okay. And so Fermin is, I believe, also 26 or around that age range, but Jose Barrero was looking to hopefully get a spot on the bench, but he will, of course, not. And it will be Jose Fermin, according to Katie Wu of The Athletic.
Yeah, that's official.
Yes.
He is actually going to, on March 29th, in a week, Jose Fermin will turn 26.
Oh, he's almost there.
Happy birthday. And he's already had some time in the majors. He was up, let's see, he came up to the majors for the first time. Actually, no, his major league debut was made as a member of the Cardinals in 2023.
I think, I can't remember if it was Lynn Worthy or Katie Wu, but somebody a week ago dropped the article about who is the backup to Mason Wynn. And the premise was the backup might be in like single A or double A. And I think just the age of Barrero is something we keep kind of hitting because we talked about Kaepernick yesterday. It's just, I know that they like his skill set, but again, when a guy's turning 26, we're talking about him not being able to make the roster and him not, just making his MLB debut. I think we understand maybe why an article like that gets written, because the potential, the long term, the arc isn't a guy like Barrero who's 26 and hasn't been able to make it to the majors yet.
And I do wonder if, for example, Mason Wynn, happy birthday, Mason Wynn. Today he's 23 today. Yeah, we know you're watching. But if Mason Wynn would miss a month, would it be Fermin? Would they play Donovan at short? What do you think they would do? I don't have any clue. I'm assuming that Donovan might be
I would
the
assume
first
Donovan,
guy at short.
But then you have Fermin now as an option.
Right. But
that's
I wonder if
good.
and that's one thing I don't know. And we'll have to ask Ollie when they get home next week. I wonder if they would be comfortable playing Fermin for a month.
Yeah, I don't know if they would or not, but that kind of speaks to their infield depth, to your point, right? Of that, what they have available right now in their system. Also, she noted, as you can see in this tweet right here, the Cardinals hope to finalize their 26-man roster before they break camp on Sunday. And I saw that 28LBR, I believe is how you say your username. You said Michael Ciani, soon to be DFA'd or sent to minors. Have not heard that decision.
We've heard that Ciani is going to be sent to the minors and that Scott is going to make the team.
Yes.
Which means that Scott would be your everyday center fielder. They're going to have Victor Scott here and then start Nootbaar and Burleson in the outfield. That's not going to happen.
I think that a lot of people would be pretty mad about that, Randy, if it turned out to be that case. And Bernie was right. We've discussed this too on the shows leading up to this, but Victor Scott II has done every single thing right during the spring training. There's a clear improvement, and his point too about spring training last year and this year, there is a huge difference. We talked about that yesterday, because with last season, it was also like Victor Scott II was thrust into that role because Dylan Carlson was injured. Remember when Jordan Walker and Dylan Carlson collided?
Yeah.
That changed their plan for the outfield. This time, you could tell that Victor Scott II, I believe, is ready. There will, of course, be some ebbs and flows, and there will be some down points, but there's a clear difference in his approach at the plate.
And that's why you're having the year that you're having, so that he can iron out some of those issues that inevitably every player almost is going to deal with. And Victor Scott will have that opportunity in a no pressure, no expectation situation to become an everyday major league player. And that's with the way the Cardinals have tried to go about their business over the last, since 1996. Under Tony, it was almost impossible, unless you were Albert or Yachty, for a young player to get to the major leagues and stay there. And those guys were great right off the bat. But they have not done much development of major league players at the major league level, because the expectation has been to win, and young players take some time, and they're going to be bad for a while.
So we have a question from Keith Adams. Who is the fourth outfielder? Burleson?
Burleson.
Yes, that will be your fourth outfielder, is Alec Burleson. So you'll be able to get him some more at bats. Also of note today, John Denton of MLB.com, he said that Nolan Gorman and Nolan Arenado are out of today's games for different reasons. Gorman is out because of an illness, while Arenado will work in the backfield simulated game where he can get 3 to 4 at bats without beating up his body.
So good.
Get them rest. It's always of note. I think that sometimes people panic if all of a sudden that you see on there that, a player's not playing. What's going on?
Right. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
Brooke, you brought something up, and I wanted to get to this, and I've wanted to do this on the show. I just haven't been talking about it.
I'm afraid what's about to happen.
Sorry, everybody. This spring, Dylan Carlson hitting .320 with a 1.087 OPS.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the Orioles apparently have unlocked what ailed Dylan Carlson after he got out of the cold, dead hands of John Mozeliak. And Dylan Carlson expected to play significant amounts of time because they lost Santander. They were looking for a replacement, and Dylan Carlson apparently is going to play a lot for the Orioles.
I have not been paying attention that closely with the Orioles and Dylan Carlson, but is he still considered a switch hitter for them?
Yes,
not?
he is.
So they're allowing him to do that, because remember that was another thing with the Cardinals whatsoever. That doesn't add to when players leave. That storyline continues if they find themselves in a better situation elsewhere or they improve elsewhere.
Right.
I hate to hear that. Good for Dylan Carlson, though, because that was a really tough situation he was put into here.
What, trying to play without being taught how to play?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. But
I'm
rooting for him. Because I've always thought, since we saw him in 21 and he was third in National League Rookie of the Year voting, I always thought he could play.
Exactly.
And injuries certainly did not help him. But I don't think right now that we're in a position where you say, okay, he can't play. I think now he's hopefully going to get an opportunity to prove it.
Exactly. And good for Dylan Carlson. I'm happy for him. And
Yeah,
hopefully
me
he's
too.
happier in this situation too. What do you have planned for this weekend?
So I think I'm going to go to the hockey game on Sunday.
Ooh,
Getting a
fun.
haircut today.
Okay.
So now that I'm you always see me. Used to be you didn't always see me, so I could go every 5 or 6 weeks.
But now you have to worry.
When are you
about
going to
it.
get the rest of them cut?
So I think for me, 2:00 Blues game tomorrow, 5:00 Blues game on Sunday. So I think tomorrow is going to be a Cardinals NCAA day, and and then 60 degrees and very sunny tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to go to the range or try to go play some golf.
Oh, okay. I thought you were about to say biking day. I didn't know if it was biking season for you yet.
Too cold.
Yeah.
I'm a weather wuss. But get out
For
and hit
golfing,
some golf balls.
yes. Yeah.
And then Sunday, I think just watch a little basketball and head on over to the Blues game and then prepare for Monday.
Nice.
I think we need to have 4-day work weeks.
I like that.
Yeah.
You proposed this during the radio show too.
I did. And then you know what they said?
We were on radio, by the way. I
Oh.
don't know if you knew that. Always somebody.
Way
always
back in the day. Yeah. Way back in the day. And the response was, and now looking back, we should have taken it. Sure, we'll start you at 6 a.m. rather than 7. Okay.
Whoopsies.
Yeah, you're taking that 4-day work week.
Oh well.
So so yeah, how about you? What do you got going on?
I'm just being pregnant. Just gonna. That's
Oh,
it.
fun. So
That's
it's an NCAA TV.
Exactly.
Blues on TV on weekend.
Yeah,
Okay.
I get very tired, so it's perfect for me this time of year. Just to lounge around and watch TV.
Two
Good
things
for you. How about Matthew? What do you got going on, brother?
watching basketball, City game tomorrow night, City
yes.
post game tomorrow after they face off against Bradley Carnell in Philadelphia. Big Blues weekend, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, sure. All right, cool.
Pretty big Blues weekend.
Just speaking of that, some Blues news. Joe Roderick letting me know Jordan Kyrou has been named Player of the Week in the NHL for the week of March 14th
Nice.
to 20th. 9 points, 5 goals, lead the league. Scored his 5th NHL career hat trick, 3 multi-point games. Recorded his 25th NHL career multi-goal game, and 7 even strength goals or 7. I'm not sure what that stat means. Jordan Kyrou had a really good week.
Yeah, he did.
And then also Luke Korak tweeting out on Twitter, it's picture day down at the Enterprise for the Blues.
Oh,
And Colton Parayko was able to get on ice in skates for the shots, full uniform and everything.
There
So
we go.
obviously he's not skating, but he's up on skates in full uniform for the picture taking. And I appreciate Luke Korak for updating all of us on that.
that's great news to hear. By the way, I don't know
Oh,
if
they're
you've
so
been
good.
watching.
You got to quit bringing in Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah, we went with the Thin Mints today.
I don't think there's one that I hate, honestly. But I did see some story. Were they saying that like there's metals in these Girl Scout
Yeah, but who
cookies or
cares?
something?
Are they delicious or not?
Yeah, I'm still gonna eat it.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna eat it because they're delicious.
When I was a kid, speaking of metals, we ate.
I'm here for a
and
good time, not a long
I
time.
feel fine.
Yeah. You tell me I'm not supposed to eat tagalongs.
Yeah.
You're telling me that they taste that good and they have metal in them?
Yeah.
You know what? Fine. If eating metal's wrong,
Yeah.
I don't want to be
Yeah.
right.
There you go. Here's the other thing. So when I was a kid, we also had we had BB guns, we had wrist rockets, and we had these little guns that shot little. Do you remember?
whoa,
Did you-
whoa,
yellow
Hold on a
rubber
second.
pellets. They were awesome. It was like pistol,
What-
boom, 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 boom.
What is a wrist rocket?
Oh, so a wrist rocket is
I don't know what that is.
a wrist rocket is it's I forget what they call them now. But what did David have?
Slingshot?
Slingshot, yeah. But it's got a little thing that,
Oh,
it's a
yes.
brace for your wrist.
Now I know what you're
So
talking
you
about.
go
Yes.
way back here.
Yeah, it
boom.
was a slingshot.
And
Yeah.
you could shoot at a bird. You'd never hit him from 100 yards away. And
Oh, Randy, you killed a bird, didn't you?
no, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
I wasn't good enough.
He tried.
But here's the thing: we had all
tried to
these
kill
things
a
when I was a
bird.
kid. I still have my eyes. Okay, I don't have a hole in
Yes,
my
but
face.
some children did lose theirs.
Yeah, but I don't care about them.
Fair enough.
So if and you know what, the kids that did are saying today, even now, it was worth it. So
It is.
yeah,
I think so.
because we had the opportunity. Well, okay, so this was really politically incorrect when I was a kid. We played Cowboys and Indians.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
What do they play?
It's
Cowboys and Native Americans.
Excuse me. It's cow people.
Cow people. And
Cow
Native Americans.
people.
So anyway, the little pistol though with the yellow rubber pellets, Chad, if you got to play with those as a kid, they were awesome. And I wonder if you can find them on eBay because they were cool. By the way, 282 Liber. I think that's 282 pounder.
Oh, is that what they're saying?
Yep. Why are the Cardinal owners of the belief that fans should attend if the product on the field is not competitive? Mazel tov to Brooke on pregnancy. Congrats. Go Karraker Blues will make the playoffs. LBR. Thank you. Here's my thing. Oh, and Will Sutton says I still have my wrist rocket. So not, and you know what? You don't have to buy. The Cardinals are marketing to people that are baseball fans. There are people that are winning baseball fans. And the Cardinals are telling us that they want their product to be competitive. Ali Marmol has said, yeah, our players are going to go out every day and try to win, but they probably just aren't prepared to win at this point. That being said, my favorite seasons have been when the Cardinals were not expected to be great and then wound up being great. My favorite season of all time was 1985 when the Cardinals were picked to finish last in the division, wound up winning 101 games. Sometimes you never know. You think the Royals expected to go from 54, 56 wins the year before last to almost 100 last year?
Because it has to do with the players, right?
Yeah,
because
right.
if there's just an exciting player, even if they don't go and win it all, if there's some exciting players and exciting things being done, then that will get people on board enough.
So Victor Scott, right?
Yes.
Victor Scott should sell tickets to Cardinal fans.
I think so. And I think that he deserves to be on the open day roster, and it's good to see that seems to be the case here.
Yeah. We do need to get to a couple of these. Josh Kinsey, my dad killed a squirrel by accident with a wrist rocket, so my mom made stew. Very memorable day for that 10-year-old, this 10-year-old. Josh, there you go. Accident, though. Accidents do happen.
An accident.
Yeah.
But at least made the most out of the accident.
Right. Yeah, it's stew. Yeah. By the way, have you ever seen at the grocery store, they have like frozen squirrel?
Which grocery store do they have that at? They have that at Deerberg's?
Or maybe it's frozen rabbit. I'm not sure.
I don't
but in
know
the
if
frozen
I've
food
seen
section.
that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Bub says, we didn't have those, but we definitely got away with playing airsoft, which is really fun and eyewear is necessary. Airsoft are cool too. I know our friends on the Riz show have an airsoft gun in their studio.
They do. Yeah. This makes me really excited and nervous to have a boy. Just
you'll love it.
Yeah.
It'll be so much fun. So, and see if you can find a wrist rocket for him.
No.
And jarts.
Brooke, having a boy is great. I did get 1,000 stitches before I was 10 years old.
That's what I'm saying is that I feel like I'm already
and that
an
did not make
mess.
me stop doing stupid stuff. There are 3 or 4 incidents that I probably should have gone to the hospital for. And really luckily, skiing down a mountain when there's no snow on the mountain, bad idea. Don't do it. I was stupid. I somehow didn't get hurt. Don't do it.
This scares me. No, I know.
Don't have another
how
boy.
Boys can be.
I will say, don't have another one
know
because a lot of those stitches can be blamed on my older brother. So just, don't raise the odds.
Are you going to get your boy little tiny golf clubs once he stands?
We'll see. Nobody's really a golfer in my family. My dad's not a golfer. I'm not a great golfer. David's not a golfer. So he might not gravitate towards that. But we will, if he wants to, then we'll allow it to happen, of course.
I think the reason that there are so many good golfers that are kids now, like Danny Mac's kids and Greg Amsinger's kids, is because golf clubs are in their hands as soon as they can walk.
Yeah.
A scholarship.
Oh, it is a little bit easier to get it. I felt like that when I was younger because I picked tennis and I love playing tennis, but tennis scholarships always go to kids overseas first. They're always recruiting.
Really?
It's so rare
that
a lot of them do, though.
Really?
Yeah.
But I mean, like at MTSU, did the Gators recruit overseas?
Blue
kids?
Raiders. Yes, they
Oh,
recruited
Raiders.
overseas.
Sorry, Raiders.
Yes, because usually the tennis coach is from over there, so they're a little bit biased.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Yes,
being
you
pregnant.
too. Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Just lounge around and eat. That's what I do.
I do that, and I'm not even pregnant. So, looking forward to that. How about you, Matthew? You got St. Louis City SC tomorrow, right? That you're going to be watching on Apple and
yes, we'll be watching that on Apple, and then right here on Sports Hub STL, we'll be going live with our post-game show.
Post-game shows for everything. Couple of Blues games, St. Louis City, and we also have Domesticated Gamblers coming up at noon Central Time here on the YouTube channel. If you didn't get a chance to tune in earlier, by the way, Bernie Miklasz has joined Sports Hub STL. He will be a regular contributor for the shows. There he is right there. And he's also going to be writing at sportshubstl.com. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we will see you Monday at 10.